I move furniture for a living, for a small company. And the thing about that work is how far inside a stranger's life it takes you. You're not at the door, you're in the bedroom. You're carrying the boxes marked private, you're seeing the photos on the wall, you're learning which room is whose. A name tag on your shirt, a clipboard with the address. 2 days of being trusted alone in somebody's house. You don't think of it as dangerous, you think of it as a job. That was the part I had wrong. It was a 2-day job, a family moving into a bigger place across town. Ordinary people, kids' drawings on the fridge, the dad home to point us where things went. He was friendly in that careful way some people are, watching more than he talked. And on the first day, there was a second crew the company had brought on to cover the heavy stuff. Day labor, guys I didn't know, hired on for the week. One of them I noticed only because he didn't talk to anybody. He worked and he watched the dad, and I didn't think a thing of it. The first day was just work. Boxes, stairs, the truck, the new house, back again. I had my shirt on with the company name across it and my own name stitched on the pocket, the way we all did. It never once occurred to me that the shirt told everyone in that house exactly who I work for, or that the clipboard had the family's old address and their new one written right on it, sitting on the tailgate where anyone could read it. That's not information you guard. It's just the job, printed on you. The quiet guy on the second crew started talking to me a little the second morning. Small stuff. Where you from? How long you been doing this? You like it? The kind of nothing you say carrying a couch down a hall. And I answered because why wouldn't I? You spend a day sweating next to someone, you tell them where you grew up. He listened to all of it, careful, the way the dad did. And later I'd play those answers back in my head and feel sick about every harmless one of them. Because that second day, something shifted, and it took me a while to feel it. The dad and the quiet guy were standing in the new garage when I came in with a load, and the air between them was wrong. The dad had gone stiff, polite, but stiff, the way you go around a person you've recognized and wish you hadn't. And the quiet guy was smiling at him, a small, knowing, settled smile, like a man who'd waited a long time to be standing in this exact garage. I set my box down and the room felt like it was holding its breath. I found out, in pieces, over the next hour, what I'd walked into. The dad was a prison officer, and the quiet guy on our crew had done time under him, out a few months, picking up day labor, sent by the company by pure chance to carry the boxes of the man who used to hold the keys to his cell. The dad knew him on sight, and the quiet guy had known from the first hour exactly whose house he was inside. And somewhere in that hour, it stopped being only their problem and started being mine. He wasn't only watching the dad. He'd spent 2 days watching all of us, learning the crew, reading the shirts, hearing me say where I was from and how long I'd worked there and that I liked the job. He'd been inside this family's whole life for 2 days and inside mine, and not one of us had been doing anything but our work, which is to say, not one of us had been guarding a single thing. I tried to just finish the job, keep my head down, carry the last loads, get the truck loaded and gone. But I could feel him clocking me now, the way he'd been clocking the dad. When I passed him in the hall, he'd look at the name on my shirt, then up at my face, making sure he had them matched, filing me. And I told myself it was nothing. He's just a guy, the day's almost done. We loaded the last of it as the light went. I was closing the truck and he came up beside me, friendly, casual, and he said my name. My full name, first and last, the one stitched small on my pocket and signed on the company sheet. Said easy, like we were old friends. And then he said the name of the town I told him I grew up in, and the name of the company, and the road the shop was on, reciting my own life back to me, soft, watching my face the whole time. "Good talking to you," he said, and he smiled because he could see I'd understood. He had all of me, and I'd handed it over, piece by piece, carrying his couch. He never threatened me. There was nothing you could write down. A man said my name pleasantly and wished me a good day. Try taking that to anyone. The notes started about a week later. Not to the family, to me. At the shop first, then once at the place I was renting, which meant he'd already found that too. Nothing graphic, that was the awful part. Hope the new job's treating you well. Saw the truck out on Route 9 Tuesday, you worked too hard. Little friendly lines in a careful hand, each one proving he was watching, each one telling me a road I'd been on, a day, a time. All of it true, all of it close, and not one word in any of them I could take to anybody as a threat. I quit inside the month and stopped wearing my name where anyone could read it. The note stopped not long after. Nobody caught him, nobody made him. He just decided he'd made his point and moved on. No arrest, no name but one on a release sheet I never saw. It didn't end, it only went still. For years, the job had walked me into strangers' homes and out again. Open, friendly, name on my chest. And I'd never once thought of myself as the one who could be studied. I thought the trust ran one way, that they were trusting me. It runs both ways, and I'd handed mine to everyone. Now they get my hands and my hours, and nothing else. After that move, I stopped letting the job decide who got to know me. I'm a stranger now, to everyone I carry for. I staged and cleaned rental properties, got them photo ready, kept them turning over. It's a small business and you find work however you can, so I'd put up an ad, the kind that says I'm taking on a few new places. You meet the owner, you walk the property, you quote the job. And almost always the owner is exactly what they seem, someone with a place to rent and 100 questions about your rate. That's the rhythm. So when the rhythm was off, from the very first call, I should have heard it sooner than I did. A man answered the ad, wanting me to take over his place for short-term rentals. And every single thing about the call was a little wrong, in a way I talked myself out of each time. He talked fast, all over the place, like he was reading from a list he kept losing. He had no permit, which is the first thing you need, so why was he even calling me? And when I named my rate and then a staging budget on top, real money, he said yes. No pause, no haggling, no, let me think about it. Yes to all of it, instantly, like the numbers didn't matter at all. I want to be honest that the easy yes is seductive when you run your own thing. Somebody handing you a big job, no fight over price. Part of you just wants to grab it before he changes his mind. So I let the wrongness sit. We set a time for me to come see the property. And that's when he said the first thing that actually put a finger on the back of my neck. "Door's always unlocked," he said. "Come whenever. I might not be there. Doesn't matter, just go on in." Just go in. Into a stranger's house, whether he's there or not. Like the house was already mine to walk into, which is a thing no careful owner has ever said to me. I had a rule, back then, that I'd built over years of going into empty houses alone. I didn't go to a first meeting by myself if anything felt off. I'd bring someone, my brother, a friend, anyone, just a second body in the truck. And everything about this felt off enough that I'd meant to. But the day came and I was busy and the job was big and the man had been so easy, and I told myself I was being paranoid about a guy who just wanted his house rented. So I broke my own rule. I went alone. That's the decision I've turned over more than any other. The address took me out past the edge of town, down a road that got worse the farther it went. And the property came up on the left, and my stomach dropped before I'd even stopped the truck. It was a rundown place, half swallowed by the yard. Curtains sagging, A dead car in the weeds, that flat gray look a house gets when no one's really living in it, just staying. This was not a rental. This was nowhere near a rental, and it never would be. No amount of staging makes that house photo-ready. There was no job here. There had never been a job here. And I was 20 minutes from anyone, with my engine still running. My phone buzzed as I sat there. It was him. And before I could say I'd changed my mind, he was talking, fast and friendly. "You here? Great, great. Go on in, I'm running late." And then, light, like it was nothing. "My brother's home, by the way. Just head inside, he'll let you look around." His brother. He hadn't said one word about a brother the night before, and now there was a brother in the house, and I was being told to walk into a stranger and a closed front door in the middle of nowhere, alone. Everything in me said drive away, but the same thing that made me come alone made me get out of the truck and leave it running, door open, while I went up. The job, the money, the not wanting to be the difficult one, the story that he's just a disorganized guy and his brother's just a guy. So I went up to the door, and the house, up close, was worse. That smell that gets into a place where people are using and not living. Trash. Stillness. And the front door, when I knocked, was unlocked, exactly like he'd said. It drifted open under my hand onto a dark front room with nothing in it but a couple of broken chairs. I stood in the doorway and I did not go in. I called out, "Hello, I'm here about the place. Your brother said to come by." And the house just held still. No footsteps, no, "Be right there." Nothing but the sound of the wind through a room that had clearly not been anybody's home in a long time. And I almost turned around right then. I had one foot back toward the truck, and that's when I heard it, from somewhere deeper in the house, behind a shut door, a small sound, a shift, a rustle. Somebody in there who had heard me and had not answered. "Hello?" I said again, louder, into the dark house. "Your brother told me to come in. Is that okay?" And from behind that closed interior door, down a short dark hall, a man's voice answered. One word. "Yeah, just that, flat, low." Not coming toward me, not opening the door, not getting up. A man sitting on the other side of a shut door in an empty house, who'd let me knock and call twice before he made a sound, and who answered with the single word that would keep me coming, and showed me nothing of himself at all. And the second I heard that voice, I was certain of a thing I couldn't prove, that the brother and the owner were the same man, that nobody else was in this house, that he was waiting behind that door to show me his face only when I was close enough that showing it wouldn't matter. I did not call out again. I did not take the step he was waiting for. I just stood there one more second in that open doorway, the dark hall in front of me and the daylight at my back, and then I started to move. I started backing out of that doorway, slow at first, then not slow. Eyes on that closed door at the end of the hall the whole time, because I did not want my back to it. And as I cleared the threshold, the door down the hall moved. Just the sound of it, a handle, a creak, weight coming up off a floor. The man behind it finally deciding to stand, now that I was leaving, now that the soft way hadn't worked. I was off the porch and into the truck faster than I've moved in my life. Doors locked, engine already running, gravel under the tires, and as I swung around, I saw him for the only second I ever did. Not his face, a shape filling the front doorway he'd told me to walk through, standing where I'd just been, watching the truck, not running after it, not calling out, just standing in the door of his empty house, the same way he'd waited behind the other one. Patient, like there'd be a next time. He called me twice on the drive back, and I let it ring. And then he texted, friendly as ever, like I hadn't just fled. Said he was sorry he missed me. Said the place had great bones and I should come back Sunday and really take my time. Come back Sunday, alone, to the empty house where his brother lived behind a door. I never answered. I blocked the number and I sat in my driveway shaking, trying to build a harmless version of it, and it broke every time on the same thing. There was no job, and there was no brother, and he wanted me to come back. I'd love to tell you I found out who he was. I never did. No real name, no permit, no property anybody could tie to him. An ad answered by a voice and an address that led to a house I'm not even sure was his. Just a place out past the edge of town, with an unlocked door and a man who waited behind another one, and a return invitation I never took. Whatever that Sunday was supposed to be, I don't know, and I have made my peace with never knowing, because the not knowing is the only thing that kept me from going back. The thing that scares me, looking back, isn't how wrong the house was. It's how badly I wanted the job to be real. How much the easy money and the no haggling and the big budget made me argue myself past every alarm I had. I went alone because I wanted it to be fine. That wanting was the thing he had his hand on, not the door. So now when a client says yes too fast and the place is too empty and the door's already open, that's exactly when I slow all the way down. I don't go alone, and I don't take a job that's only easy. The easy ones are the ones that were never jobs. I cleaned houses, on my own, building a client list one job at a time. And the way you grow that kind of business is you say yes to the walkthrough. A new client wants you to come look at the place first, see the rooms, count the work, give them a number before they book. You go alone. You go on their time, to their address, to a home you've never seen. That's not a red flag in my trade. That's just Tuesday. The whole thing only works because you'll walk into a stranger's house to win the job. And I'd done it 100 times. The 101st is the one I'm telling you about. He reached out like any new client does. Found me, said he had a place that needed regular cleaning, wanted me to come by and quote it. Polite, normal, a little short on detail, but people are. We set a time. He gave me an apartment address, a unit number, a building I didn't know, on the far side of town. And I put it in my calendar like I put everything. Name, address, time, walkthrough, estimate. The most ordinary line in my week. I told myself, like always, that the calendar was my safety. Somebody knew where I'd be, but a line in a calendar only tells people where to start looking. The building was quiet in a way that didn't sit right. Middle of the day and the lot was half empty. The halls were dead. The kind of place where you don't hear another TV or another voice the whole time you're in it. I found his unit at the end of a long interior hallway, the last door, farthest from the stairs, farthest from the entrance. And I stood outside it for a second with my supplies in one hand, the way you do, getting your work face on, and I noticed I couldn't hear anything on the other side of that door either. No life in there, just a door at the end of a quiet hall, and me, on time, alone, exactly where I'd said I'd be. He opened the door, and he was perfectly normal. That's the thing nobody believes. Pleasant, unremarkable, thanked me for coming, waved me in, and I stepped inside to do my walkthrough. And the apartment stopped me because it was empty. Not empty like a man who travels light, empty like nobody lived there. No furniture to speak of, bare counters, a couple of boxes against a wall that didn't look opened, nothing on the floors, nothing in the air. A place with no life in it at all, and he wanted it cleaned. I do this for a living, so the wrongness hit me as a professional thing first, before it hit me as fear. There was nothing here to clean. No kitchen that got cooked in, no bathroom that got used, no wear, no grime, no life leaving its marks the way life does. You cannot quote a job that doesn't exist. There was no reason for me to be in this apartment, and he was watching me take it in, watching me look around for the work and not find it. And he wasn't explaining. He wasn't saying, "I just moved in," or "It's my second place." He was just watching me realize that I'd been brought here to do something that wasn't here to do. I tried to keep it normal, because that's what you do. I said something bright about the layout. I started toward the kitchen with my notepad, making the motions of an estimate, giving us both the story that this was a job. And he moved when I moved. Not toward the kitchen, toward the door. Drifting, easy, casual, putting himself between me and the way I'd come in. The way you'd never notice if you weren't already cold. And I was already cold. I clocked it the way you clock a step in the dark. He was getting behind me and getting between me and out. And I stood there in that bare front room with my notepad in my hand. Nothing to clean, nothing to quote, a man easing himself between me and the door. And I understood I'd driven myself out here, carried my own supplies in, for something that had nothing to do with cleaning at all. So I made a decision, fast and quiet, the way you do when you can't let your face show it. I was not going to let him see that I knew. I kept the estimate going, kept my voice light, kept writing nonsense on the pad, kept being the cheerful cleaner doing her walkthrough, because the second he understood that I understood, the pretending would be over for both of us. And the pretending was the only thing keeping the room calm. I started working my way, slow, casual, notepad up, back toward the front of the apartment, toward the door, smiling, talking about square footage. He let me talk. He answered even, vague, short answers, watching. And I got myself most of the way back across that empty room, close enough to the door that I let myself think I'd just walk it. Easy, no scene. "Thank you so much, I'll email you the quote." Hand on the knob and gone. And I was reaching, my hand actually coming up toward the door, saying I'd send him the numbers by tonight. And that's when he reached past me, and I heard the sound that turned the whole apartment to ice. The deadbolt. He'd thrown the deadbolt, reached over, calm, and turned it. And the lock went home with that heavy final sound a good deadbolt makes. The sound that's supposed to mean you're safe inside. Except I was on the wrong side of safe now. He'd locked us in. In an empty apartment with nothing to clean, at the end of a dead hall, he had reached past my hand on the door and locked it. And then he looked at me, and he didn't bother with the story anymore. The pretending was over, and we both knew it. He stood there with his back almost to the door now, the deadbolt thrown behind him, filling the only way out of that apartment, and the friendly nothing was gone off his face. What was under it was just patient, settled. A locked room and a calendar entry, the only thing in the world that said where I was. But I had stopped being scared somewhere in there and started being clear. Because screaming in a dead building does nothing, and rushing a bigger person at a door does nothing. And the only thing I had was the same thing that got me into the room. Talk. The booking. The story. So I used it. I kept my voice absolutely level, and I started telling him the truth in a way that made the room a job again. I told him my partner was sitting outside in the car, waiting on me, because we always run the first estimate as a pair, and that she'd be knocking on this door in about 2 minutes if I didn't come down. None of it was true. There was no partner, no one in the car, no one 2 minutes away. But I said it the way you say a thing that's just boring fact, company policy, an annoyance, her name, what she drove, that she had the unit number written down, same as me. I made him do the math. I made him picture a second woman with the address, knocking, then calling someone else, and I watched it land. Watched him weigh the locked door against the idea that one more person knew the exact number on it. And the empty apartment that had felt like his started, in his face, to feel like a place he could get caught. And he stepped aside. Not all at once. A small shift, a weighing, the deadbolt still thrown. And I did not wait for him to finish deciding. I reached past him myself, fast and calm at the same time, turned the bolt, turned the knob, still talking, still saying I'd send the quote, still pretending for one more second that this was a job I was leaving. And I was through the door, into the dead hall, walking, not running, until the corner, and then running, supplies left behind, down the stairs and out into the daylight and into my car, hands shaking so hard I could barely get the key over. I drove out of that lot watching the door of the building in my mirror, and he never came out of it. No one did. The half-empty lot stayed still, the dead windows stayed dark, and the whole place just let me leave, the way it had let me come, like nothing had happened in it at all. And nothing had. That was the thing. A cleaner went to an empty apartment to quote a job and left without the job. On paper, that's a Tuesday. There was no box anywhere for what it actually was. What stays with me is what came after. There was nothing to report. Nothing got taken. Nothing got finished. No one touched me. A man locked a door and then unlocked it. The apartment, when I drove back past weeks later, had a new name on the buzzer. Empty, turned over, like he'd never been there. He booked me through the same ordinary channel I get every job from, under a name that was probably nobody. And when it didn't work, he simply let go of the door and was gone, back into the same stream of new clients I still have to answer to keep the lights on. I still clean houses. People still have to eat, and the work is the work. But I changed everything about the walkthrough, because the walkthrough was the door he came through. Now somebody really does sit in the car. Now I really do tell a client at the booking that the first visit is 2 people, always, no exceptions. Now the empty ones, the ones with nothing to clean and no reason I'm there, I don't quote those. I make an excuse and I leave in the daylight, and I let myself be wrong about a paying job. Because the one time I wasn't wrong, the only thing that got me out was a lie about a friend who wasn't there. I don't tell this one to scare anybody out of the trade. It's good work, and most clients are exactly who they say. I tell it because I used to think a dangerous man would have to come and find me, and that I'd see him coming. He didn't have to find me, he just had to book me. And I drove myself out to him, on time, with my own keys, because the work said go. So now I read the job before I trust it, every single time. If there's nothing there to do, and the door's at the end of a dead hall, and I'm the only one who knows I came, I don't take the estimate, I leave. I let it cost me. It's the reason I'm still here to tell you about it, and let's never meet. 3 jobs. A move that handed a dangerous man my name, my work, and my whole life, 2 days at a time. An ad that sent me alone to a dead house where a voice answered, "Yeah," from behind a shut door and would not come out. And a walkthrough for a job that never existed, in an empty room where a deadbolt slid shut behind me. None of them broke in. None of them had to. Each one just became the work, and the work walked me in. So before you close the tab, ask yourself the quiet question. Of those 3, the job that learns who you are, the ad that sends you alone, the booking that puts you inside, which one would you have driven yourself to, out of the rent or the rhythm, or not wanting to be the difficult one? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe so the next one reaches you before the next stranger books you. And the next time the work sends you somewhere alone, ask who exactly decided you'd be the one to go, and through whose door.